I'm Ed Cohen, and I am thrilled to be here with a very old friend, Forrest Fairley. Forrest was a long time and very influential member of the Mariemont Players during his time living in Cincinnati. He's currently living in Texas. He's got a lot to tell you. What were some of your most memorable experiences with Mariemont Players, and when did those happen?
My tenure in Mariemont Players was really in the 80s all the way till about 2006, whenever my wife Pam and I relocated down to the Dallas area. And in that time frame, I did a lot of shows there, but three of them really stick out the most. One was actually one that I directed. It was called Lend Me a Tenor, and it had a stellar cast. It was done by Ken Ludwig, who is a wonderfully funny playwright. The other was a show that was directed by one of Mariemont's angels, Jenny Weil, and it was called Camping with Henry and Tom. It was a three-person, three-actor production. Tom Story played the role of
Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison, yes. Jerry Rape played Henry Ford, and I played President Warren Harding, and it was a delightful piece. That was one that I did. And really, one of the highlights for me personally was a musical directed by Norman Nimitz, and it just had an incredible cast. And it was called Pump Boys and Dinettes. It was a very interactive audience musical. Wayne Wright was in it. Pam Day was in it. Sherry McCauley. I was in it. And the late David Pyron. Unfortunately, we don't have David anymore, and we don't have Norma. But that was an absolutely incredible musical that we all enjoyed. I'm proud to be an alumni of Mariemont.
The reason we're chatting with you tonight is that you've written a book.
Yes, I have.
In your time at Dallas, so you've kind of redirected some of your artistic energy into writing. Mm-hmm. And we're interested in you telling us about the book. The audience is going to see a short excerpt of it later in this broadcast, but why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, the book is called The Young Minds, and it is a book that is a faith-inspired fiction. And it deals with the journey of conquering remorse and regret. It is a common emotion that we all share, and we all share to certain degrees. This is a fictional story that takes place with a young, successful author who in high school attended a high school in New York City itself, and he was taught by a mentor. She was an inspiration to him. She really saw something in him he did not see in himself, which was the ability to write.
What made you choose that topic?
That topic, I realized I was a lot like this character in the book, because he was standing at the graveside of a person that he had literally forgot about, a person who set him on a path in life, and he was filled with regret and remorse, and he started beating himself up. Well, after I wrote this book, recognized the fact that I had a mentor like that in high school who set me on a path of getting involved in theater, learning acting, learning debate, public speaking, all this kind of stuff that really affected my life in later years. And I realized that I had not taken the time to go back to her and say, thank you. Thank you for what you did for me. And so I set myself on a journey after I wrote and published the book, and I found her, and she was still alive. She's 93 years of age. She was my second mom growing up. She was my next door neighbor, and she put me on a path that I so appreciate today, because it literally changed my life. This book deals with, he did not have the luxury I had, in the sense that I found my second mom, and I'm able to now, embrace her with with love and attention. He was not able to do that. So he set out on a journey to find a way to forgive himself and set right what he did wrong.
Can you tell the Mariemont audience how they can get the book?
For the first 10 people that take up what I'm going to offer to them tonight, I'm going to send them a free electronic PDF book of The Young Minds. Here's all they have to do. Just go to my website, and it's real easy to remember. It's www.theyoungmindsbook.com. Put your contact information in there, and when I get that response that you've done that, it'll send me an email, and I'll simply send back to you a free book. It's the electronic PDF version for the first 10 people that do that.
And finally, I understand that we can look forward to seeing you again soon.
When I came down to the Dallas area, I did so because of my job. And now that I'm retired, I've decided to come back home. And so literally in the next couple of weeks, my wife and I are going to be returning to Cincinnati, and I can't wait to see all the wonderful friends that we made along our way that we really consider family members. That's the great thing about Cincinnati and Cincinnati theater, is that, you can dust off the cobwebs of time and just pick up where you left off.
I hope all of you are going to enjoy the excerpt you're going to see of a scene from The Young Minds. Thanks, Forrest.
Thank you, Ed.
I slowly walked to my desk and prepared myself for the ice-cold wake-up call. The folder titled Timothy Shivers. And this was the bucket of cold water I was expecting. The headlines on the article read, Father Timothy Shivers, invited by the Pope to join him in Rome. Yes, it was he, the Timothy Shivers. Now, Monsignor, Timothy Shivers, the one that dared me to toss him the salt lick in Mr. Stedman's art class, that infamous day where I ended up in Sister Frances's office. The news clipping article announced, Father Timothy Shivers, a priest at our Holy Apostle of Christ Catholic Church in Manhattan, Kansas, had just been appointed by the Pope to work in the Vatican. And sitting right atop of the press clipping was the student report from Sister Frances outlining how Timothy had been disciplined for his involvement in the Salt Lick episode. The report provided a detailed explanation of his punishment. And as I read this, I shook my head in disbelief, having had no idea that this punishment ever occurred at all. And then it occurred to me that my suspicion of Mr. Stedman, the art class instructor, did indeed have eyes in the back of his head. How he did, nobody ever would know. Now, being the so-called bully he thought of himself as, that Tim believed himself to be, Sister Frances thought it a good lesson for Timmy to be escorted by Officer Sherman of the NYPD and pulled out of class one day and taken down to the precinct station and put in front of criminals who had failed in life. The shock and trauma of this episode, based on the report, took one Timmy Shivers into tears. And it was strange to me. As I now recalled, Tommy had never been antagonistic or bullying to anyone at his duration at NHPA after the Salt Lick episode. I just did not think of anything of it at the time, but now the story revealed what really occurred, found inside this gold nugget in the Ritter file. And now look at him. Somehow in his life, he had discovered his life. He discovered his path, a path that God had destined for him, a path that would take him even closer in his walk, inside the walls of the Holy Vatican, alongside the beloved Pope. Once again, my mind raced to yet one more of the young minds that Dorothy had somehow changed. A few more flips inside the file. I found a letter from Timmy to Miss Ritter, and I started to read it. I cringed at how he had the foresight, unlike me, to reach back to her, to write and just stay in touch. Goes, Dear Miss Ritter,
I am writing you this letter today as I reflect on the journey ahead of me to join His Holiness in Rome. Miss Ritter, this opportunity to join the Pope would not have happened without the aid of a special person who put me on this path. That person was you, Miss Ritter. It was you and your dedicated care for me as a student. I was not going down the right path, and your diligence of uncovering this fault and helping to find the trigger point that directed me to a better place has led me to where I am today. It was you who saw something in me that I did not see in myself. And on this magnificent day that our Lord God has blessed me with my new Vatican assignment, I wanted you to be the first to know. My faith has been a huge part of my maturation into the man I am today. I took it for granted during my years with you at school, but now I see how God has placed me here today to make my difference in the world as you taught us He would. I thank you for caring for me, even when I may not have deserved it. Of all the lessons you taught me, the most important was how to use my mind to change the world. You shaped my mind, you formed it, and you opened it. There are special people I believe God puts in front of us within the span of our lives. You were that person He put here for me, and for that I will be eternally and ever grateful. In God's peace, I remain. Monsignor Timothy Shivers.
Quick glance again at the school records, reports, and notes by Dorothy indicated that she had recommended to Sister Frances that Timmy be placed in the program with the NYPD, which ultimately she knew would be the hopeful life lesson for Timothy Shivers. And it was. I stood, standing, shocked and amazed in disbelief, viewing my own shortcomings eating away at me like a cancer. Once again, feeding on my own selfish need, what Timmy had done in his foresight to remember the grateful consideration of somebody who had shaped and literally changed his life. I thought once again, why, Martin? Why, in God's sakes, could you not have done the same thing? Why?